When I was 22, I started renting the downstairs apartment in my parents' house, mostly to save money, but also to get some privacy. It was a good setup in theory. But even when my parents weren't around, I still felt like I had no real space of my own. I couldn't hang out with friends or have people over without constantly feeling like someone was just upstairs, listening. The downstairs apartment was pretty open. A living room and small kitchen shared one space, with a hallway, leading to my bedroom, bathroom, and laundry room. There was a side entrance, too, separate from the main house, and a door that connected to the upstairs. I'd usually keep that door locked, but when my parents went away, I'd leave it open. Why worry when they're not home? One weekend, they were out of town, so I invited my friends Anthony and Jay over. We were just chilling, drinking, watching the hockey game, and blasting music. By the end of the night, I was definitely buzzed. Not wasted, but feeling good. Since they both drove and had been drinking, they decided to crash on the massive couch. It could easily fit 3 people if you laid down right. I said goodnight and headed to my bedroom. Some hours later, I woke up in the middle of the night to the sound of footsteps upstairs. It made sense at first. Maybe one of the guys went up to grab some water from my parents' fridge. It was bigger, and we'd kept most of the drinks there. I closed my eyes again, ready to drift off. But then I heard it. The doorknob to my room twisted. Someone was trying to get in. Luckily, I always lock my door, just a habit. Still, I wondered why one of them would try to come in. I didn't feel like dealing with it, so I just stayed silent, hoping they'd give up. They did. I fell back asleep not long after. In the morning, Anthony was already gone. Jay was still passed out on the couch. When he woke up, I asked if he'd tried to come into my room during the night. He looked confused. "I don't think so," he said, but I was pretty drunk. I don't remember much. We went to the local deli, grabbed some bacon, egg, and cheese sandwiches, had coffee in my backyard. He left shortly after, and I just went about my Saturday like normal. I didn't bother asking Anthony about it. Honestly, it wasn't a big deal at the time. Later that night, I came home pretty late, but I was sober by then. Tired as hell, though. I grabbed a snack, washed up, and crawled into bed, flipping on the TV to wind down. After about an hour, I turned it off. That's when I heard the same sound as the night before. Creaks, thumps, footsteps. They were faint, but definitely above me, right in the kitchen. My heart rate picked up. I sat up in bed, listening. The sounds stopped. I told myself it was just the house settling, but I should have trusted my gut, because that doorknob turned again. This time, I bolted upright, like someone had fired a gun in my ear. The knob jiggled once or twice. Then came a soft knock. I didn't move, didn't breathe. I just reached for my phone and started texting my family, Anthony and Jay. I knew it wasn't them, not really, but I hoped someone would say, "Yeah, it's me." No response. My parents were out of town. I wasn't about to shout, "Who's there?" and tip them off that I was awake. Instead, I grabbed a heavy object and hid behind the dresser, just in case. I stayed like that for 10 minutes, frozen. Nothing happened. No more knocks. Finally, I whispered to 911 and explained what was going on. I asked the dispatcher to send the officers to my bedroom window. A few minutes later, an officer tapped the glass. I opened it and handed him the key to the side door. They entered quietly and met me inside. The downstairs apartment was small. It didn't take long to search. Nothing. Then we went upstairs. Room by room, I explained which one was which until they reached my parents' bedroom. That's when I heard the commotion. I was in the hallway when I heard officers shouting. Peeked in, and saw them yelling at someone under the bed. Someone was under my parents' bed. They pulled out a tall, dirty man wearing a hoodie and shorts. He looked off. Homeless, maybe. Or just completely unhinged. They asked if I knew him. I didn't. But the look he gave me? I'll never forget it. Hate. Pure, twisted hate. He didn't say a word. Just stared at me like he wanted to kill me. Once he was gone, I could finally breathe. The officers told me we could follow up with the precinct if we wanted. I texted every friend and family group chat that night, trying to make sense of what just happened. I called my parents first thing in the morning. They were in complete shock. But in the end, since nothing was stolen and the guys seemed homeless, they didn't press charges. I keep thinking about it. Maybe the front door was unlocked when Anthony and Jay came over. Maybe the man just slipped in while the music was blasting. Or maybe knew. I've always loved the quiet. About 5 years ago, I moved into a small cabin tucked away in rural upstate New York, far from the chaos of the city. It's a big, secluded place, surrounded by deep woods that stretch endlessly beyond my property. The nearest neighbor is miles away. The only sounds are wind rustling through the trees and the occasional bird call. It's peaceful, and that's exactly how I like it. Fishing is my thing. I spend hours out on the lake behind my house, losing track of time. Solitude doesn't bother me. I welcome it. Most evenings, I sit on the large deck with a cold beer in hand, watching the sun dip behind the trees, listening to the night creep in. But the peace didn't last. It started about 2 weeks ago. I was on the deck like always, staring into the darkness, when I heard a twig snap in the distance. Probably a deer or raccoon, I thought. This place is full of wildlife. I brushed it off, but over the next few days, the sounds came back. More frequently, snapping twigs, rustling leaves, normal forest stuff, maybe. Then one night, it changed. I heard a scratching sound. It came from the side of the house, near the spare bedroom window. It was subtle, deliberate, like it was trying not to be heard. My heart started racing. I waited, but nothing followed. Probably just a squirrel, I told myself. Still, something didn't sit right. I locked up and went to bed. The next evening, the scratching returned, but it was closer this time. Right outside the spare bedroom window, I froze, listened. The air felt off. I peeked through the curtain, half expecting to see something or someone. But all I saw were long shadows cast by moonlight. I shook it off again. Probably the wind or a branch. I went to bed. The next night, the scratching was joined by a tapping. Light, deliberate, like someone trying to get my attention. This time, I jumped out of bed, flashlight in hand. I crept down the hallway and reached the window. I shined the light out. Nothing. No person, no animal, just the trees. But the feeling that I wasn't alone lingered. The air felt heavy, charged. Sleep was impossible. Every creak of the floorboards sounded like footsteps. I lay awake, listening. Eventually, exhaustion won. Night after night, it continued. The tapping, the scratching. Sometimes, I even heard faint whispers from inside the walls. I had enough. Maybe it was an animal, I told myself. A raccoon, or something that found its way in. I grabbed a crowbar from the shed, just in case, and headed for the spare bedroom. I opened the door slowly. The air inside was stale, untouched. I hadn't used the room in months, I swept the flashlight across the room, under the bed, behind the dresser. Empty. I turned to leave, then noticed the closet door, slightly ajar. I didn't leave it that way. My stomach dropped. I crept over and pulled it open. Empty, except for a torn piece of dark cloth caught on the edge of the wall. It looked like clothing. My breath caught. My mind raced. Someone had been in there. I backed out of the room, heart pounding, slammed the door, and bolted it shut. I stepped outside, hoping the cold air would clear my head, but the woods felt like they were closing in. That night, I slept on the couch with a baseball bat beside me. But it was silent. Too silent. The next night, I decided I wouldn't run. I lay in bed, determined to stay. And then, tap, tap, tap on the window. I leapt up, flashlight in hand, and ran to the spare bedroom. I yanked the curtain aside. There it was, a shadow, standing just beyond the glass, barely visible. My blood ran cold. Someone was there, watching me. I turned, adrenaline surging, and grabbed the phone. My hands shook as I dialed 911. "Someone's outside my house," I managed to say. "I think they're still here." I gave my address and was told help was on the way. But then I heard it, a creak in the hallway. Someone was inside. I didn't hesitate. I bolted for the back door, burst into the woods, and ran. I didn't stop. My lungs burned, my legs screamed, but I kept going until I saw the flashing lights of the police cars through the trees. I slowed, trembling, and ducked behind a tree. I watched as officers swept the house. I didn't stick around. I haven't been back since. I called the police later to confirm I was safe, so they wouldn't keep searching for me. But the cabin still stands, alone, deep in the woods. And I can't shake the feeling that whatever was there, it's still watching, still waiting. And then there's what happened when I was 15. Back in 2008, my parents went out to the casino that night, leaving me home alone with our black lab, Abby. Around 11 p.m., I was messaging friends and watching YouTube videos when Abby started barking in the living room. I assumed my parents were back, but after a minute of barking and no sound of the front door, I got up to check. Abby stood at the window, growling at the driveway. I looked outside. Only one car. My parents weren't home yet. Maybe it was just a neighbor's car, I told myself. I sat back down, but then came the sounds. Subtle, unsettling. Abby barked on and off like she was tracking someone. Then I heard a knock, or maybe rustling, at the living room door. I froze. My heart jumped. I checked the door. Nothing. Just as I was about to leave the room, I heard the side door rattle, someone trying to open it. My blood turned to ice. And then, the sound of the basement door handle. That entrance was hidden under the deck. You had to really know it was there, or be looking for a way in. Abby barked like I'd never heard before, a low, threatening growl. She sprinted toward the basement stairs, snarling. Then, silence. And that silence scared me more than the noise. I called her back and locked the door leading to the basement. I grabbed the home phone and hid in my parents' room with one of my dad's guns. I was about to call 911 when I heard the front door open. Abby bolted. I screamed after her until I heard voices, my parents' voices. I ran out to find them petting Abby, confused. I told them everything. My dad searched the whole house, gun in hand. Nothing. The next day, there was a knock at the front door. I panicked, again, but this time, it was Uncle Pete. holding an envelope. We listened in from another room as he said, "I stopped by last night to drop this off, but no one was home." My dad's face went red with anger. Uncle Pete had been the one outside, the one trying to get in. The envelope? A thank you card and gift card for helping his daughter with softball. He'd stalked our house, tried every door, even the basement, in the middle of the night, and said nothing until confronted. We never spent time with him again. I'm grateful Abby was there. She protected me. She may have scared him off. But I still wonder, what was he thinking? Why didn't he call? What if he had gotten in?